Thank you, Mr. Chairman. My ears perked up when we got to the modernization piece, because that's, of course, what, as you heard this morning, many of us are concerned about. So two questions. First, for Mr. Landon, it's a question that I asked of the department. So now I want to get your perspective as a representative from SEIU. We've been hearing from many employees that the chain of command, at some point, a lot of their concerns were not getting filtered to the top when it came to especially talking about what you needed as this modernization process went forward. We heard the department say that they feel like the communication has been adequate. I'd kind of like to hear your perspective.
I think that we're continuing to work with the administration to improve that, to have our input at a greater extent than it is now.
Okay. So you'd like to see a little more as you move forward.
Yes.
Now, Representative Keller this morning brought up the fact that he's concerned that we've already put the cart in front of the horse a little bit. I mean, the contract is what it is. We're ready. So now maybe Ms. Simon Michelle, you can give us a little, go into that a little further. As we have the contract, we know who's doing this thing. How can we ensure that we're not Louisiana? I didn't hear too much about Tennessee, but what do you feel is necessary?
Certainly. And first, let me also add, in terms of involving the state employees, that is something where there's a question not only of are they given an opportunity to speak, but also are they listened to? Right? Because they can give as much information as they are asked, but if it's not actively involved and integrated into the process, then we're ending up in the same problem we were.
That sounds like something my wife would say to me. You know,
Are you actually listening?
I know you're hearing me. Are you actually listening?
Active listening. It's a skill we learn in legal services early on. But one of the things on that as well, so Tennessee was actually the state that experienced more of a problem in its implementation of this system than Louisiana. Louisiana actually didn't do a full COTS system with GIS. It was actually a licensed web development system. So it's slightly different. Tennessee is really the one that used the system that we're going to be using now. And actually, with all of the implementation problems that Tennessee had, when current management from the department responded to the auditor's report, one of the main points they made is that the previous management who oversaw the implementation erred by not including the state workers who had processed claims for their entire careers. So just to, again, reemphasize that is something that has been recognized as a necessity to ensuring a successful implementation. So in Tennessee, there were a couple of other issues. One was that they claimed it was a rushed implementation. That was what the auditors found, that because they had a set amount of money to be running both systems, they were forced to implement before they had fully tested their system. So there were processes they had never tested. There were case examples that had come back with errors, and they just moved forward, hoping that they could just fix it along the way, and they couldn't. It resulted in claimants not receiving benefits. It resulted in claimants and employers not receiving notices. It resulted in them not being able to send federal reports, and it resulted in them not participating in the Treasury offset program for a year and missing out on millions of dollars of recoupment of overpayments. And so that was one of the main errors they found, was a rushed implementation.
So when we talk about training, which I think you both brought up as obviously something that's necessary, this training will involve running both systems at the same time. So we'll still have the legacy system, the old system running, still operating, and at the same time, the employees will be learning the new system. And what happened in Tennessee, for just a dumb guy like me, is they took away one and just went to the new one and basically weren't ready to use it. Is
yes.
that right?
And I will not claim to be a computer expert today in front of you all, but one of the issues is not necessarily that it's running, but that it's accessible so that you can access the data that is in the old system. Because there were issues with conversion of that data. Now, this is a clear point. We are not alone in this. This is not a Pennsylvania problem. Every state has had issues with data conversion because it's a complex process, right? And Pennsylvania has a lot more data for its workers than Tennessee or Louisiana, right? So we're looking at a problem that no one's necessarily found a clear solution to, but we have examples of how it's gone wrong that we can avoid. And one of those is not decommissioning our legacy system, so taking it apart, getting rid of it, until we are certain that all of that has transferred over successfully. Right now, it looks like the department has asked for funding for a year of overlap funding both systems while they decommission it. But from my perspective, after doing all of this research, it seems like we need a year of actually running it during that warranty period and not decommissioning it to ensure that everything is done correctly, and then decommissioning it afterwards.
Okay, that makes sense. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.